Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I am not in my studio. We're up at camp in the beautiful state of Maine, enjoying the summer, and I brought the Nord Grand 2 with me. So in this video, I want to take you through the Nord Grand 2. This video is not sponsored. Over the years, I've built relationships with companies, and one of those relationships has allowed me to get early access to the Nord Grand 2. Very thankful for that company allowing me to get my hands on the Nord Grand 2 ahead of schedule, and excited to take you through the features, the changes from the Nord Grand, and talking about the Keybed, and I'm going to show you some sounds as well as we get into this, and hopefully give you the information you need to determine, is it worth an upgrade from maybe the Nord Grand or from another digital piano out there. And so while this video is not sponsored, you guys know, if you've watched any of my videos, I'm a Nord head, and I've got the Nord Stage 3 Compact, the Nord Stage 4 88 key, and I've played a lot of other Nords. I love what they do. I love the features. I love the sounds. And so while I'll tell you the truth about what I think about this keyboard, chances are I'm going to like a lot of what's in here, especially because a lot's borrowed from the Nord Stage 4. So first, let's talk about probably the biggest question on everybody's mind, especially with the Grand line, which is geared towards those who like playing piano, is the key action. Does it feel different than the Nord Grand? What's the difference? Have they improved it? Now, the Nord Grand 2, comparing that against my Nord Stage 4, which has a pretty versatile weighted action, and my memory of the Nord Grand 2 has a heavier action. I've noticed as I've been noodling around with this that my hands actually get tired like they do on a grand piano, which is a good thing in my mind, because I want, if I'm going to spend the money on something like this, I want it to feel as close, if not like a grand piano. Now, it's not like a completely new action. It's still the Kawai hammer action, but they've improved the dampening to reduce the mechanical noise that you're hearing. They've also improved the dampening in the chassis itself, and I think that just helps to give it a tighter, better feel. Now, one thing I want to do is mute the sound for you and just play a little bit of it so you can hear the key noise. I'm not going to mute or cut out the key noise. So let's play a little bit here. I'm going to play a little harder at the beginning and then a little softer. I'm going to go off of my vocal mic here, and I'm not going to mute that. So you're going to hear kind of what I'm hearing as I'm sitting at this keyboard. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the noise. I don't feel like it's really noisy. Any keybed you play, if you cut all the strings out of a grand piano, you're going to get some level of noise just from the keys and the hammers. But to me, the action feels tighter and heavier than the Nord Grand 1 did. And it also feels tighter and heavier than the Nord Stage 4, which has a little bit more of a versatile weighted action. These keys are not waterfall. They're actually like a real piano where you've got the lip on the front, closed front keys. And I would say, in my opinion, as I've been playing this, I've played this for probably half an hour every night since I got it, and I definitely noticed my hands getting tired when playing this. I feel like it's maybe more in line with the Yamaha YC or even the Korg SV1, which tends to have a little bit of a heavier action. So keybed aside, let's talk about just our overall look and feel of this keyboard here. It's very similar to the Nord Grand. If you're familiar with that, really thick back here, you've got this angled control surface here. Most of your controls, Nord style, are right out here on the control surface. You got the keys, and it's got a nice metal chassis with wood on the top and the sides. This thing is built solid, which lends itself to how it feels. It doesn't bounce around. I have this on a KM stand. It feels really stable. I'll throw a link to that in the description so you know what stand I'm using with this. This also comes with a Nord triple pedal too, which is kind of a great addition. That's a few $100 that you don't have to go buy, and it gives you the 3 pedals like you'd have on an acoustic piano. Your right hand damper, your middle, which is the sostenuto, and then the left, which is your unicorda or soft pedal. So overall, really solid, really heavy. Probably not something you're going to go gigging with, but I'll talk about that here more in a minute. But I want to play you some of the sounds on this, talk about some of the feature changes from the Nord Grand line, and just highlight some of the things that I love about this keyboard. So let's take a look at the surface panel here. On the very left, we have our master volume and our vibrato enable disable button. And then you'll notice here in the 2 sections, we have piano section and the sample synth section. In each of these sections, we have 2 volume faders for our layers within these sections. So new from the Nord Grand is now we have 2 piano layers, 2 sample synth layers, each with independent volume controls right here on the front panel, and each with independent effects. So let's take a look over on the right-hand side, and we've got mod 1, mod 2, equalizer, amp, compression, delay, and global reverb. I'm going to talk about the reverb here in a second, but each of these effect units, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different effect units that we can apply individually to each of our 4 layers. Now the reverb says global reverb because the type of reverb and the settings here apply to all 4 layers. What we can do though is change the actual dry wet send on an individual layer level. So if we wanted only a small amount of reverb in our, piano layer A, and more in piano layer B, and then we could effectively do the same thing in the sample synths. While I love that they took the individual effect layers from the Nord Stage 4 and put that here, as well as those volumes right on the front panel for each of those layers, I do wish they had added 4 reverb effect units, because having the ability to do different reverbs on different layers I use on the Nord Stage 4 quite a bit, and I wish they had done that here, but at least with the other effects like the equalizer and the delay and things like that are independent per layer. Now, as I play the program D22 Feltscape, listen to what happens. I can just reach up here and control my layers very quickly as I'm playing. I can also easily turn the layers on and off by just holding down on any layer I want to turn off, or multiple layers at a time. Let's say we wanted to turn both the sample synths off, hold both of those buttons and the layers turn off. Now I've just got the 2 piano layers. Now what's really cool is the settings within your section are going to be applying to whichever layer is blinking. So I've got the piano layers layered together, and as I switch, you'll notice my section settings switch between the different layers. Again, I could turn the synth on and I could do the same thing there. Now, what's great about having the 4 layers, 2 pianos, 2 sample synths, each with individual effects, is we have a lot of control over how we build sounds. So A66, this is called Pearl Drops. Some great effects going on with that sound. And as we cycle through each of these layers, our effects section updates to show what effects apply to that particular layer. So for example, on our piano layer A, we have the equalizer, we have reverb setup. On B, we have mod 2 with the chorus 2 effect, we have the equalizer, we have some delay. And then if we come over to our sample synth layer A, on there, we've just got some reverb. So as you can see, different effects per layer give us that ability. Let me just pull the volume down and we'll just isolate each layer here. Just some reverb on there, and then let's come over and bring layer B up. It's got a little pre-delay on that delay, and then coming over to the synth layer. So if we put all that together, so another new feature they've added to the piano section is dynamic compression. This was on the Nord Stage 4 as well. I love this feature, and I'm just gonna show you how it works here just to show you what the dynamic compression does versus a compressor. So a compressor is gonna bring the softer parts up and it's gonna squash the louder parts. And the key word there is squash. It puts kind of a shelf on there, whereas with dynamic compression, it's just playing with the dynamic response of what you're playing to stabilize the volume between the softer and the louder parts without getting that squashed effect. So I've got a basic white grand piano sound here. Let's turn the reverb on and give that maybe about 4. So dynamic compression, we have 3 different settings. I'm gonna try to play the same strength so you can hear the difference in how the sound, the overall sound is affected. So without it, on 1, you get more of the presence of the softer tones of the piano. Number 2, and 3. Now, what I really love doing, and this is, I take this from the Nord Stage 4, is I'll put dynamic compression on maybe 2, and then I'll bring the soft timbre of the piano in. And because the dynamic compression is evening out those volume levels, it accentuates the softer, kind of nice tones of the piano. Maybe I'll put that on 3 here. Beautiful tones as the dynamic compression brings up some of the soft timbre stuff there. Let's go back to the regular, talk about one more thing that's been added to the piano section here, and that's this Unison. So without Unison, same white grand with a little bit of reverb. And we've got 3 settings for Unison. It's adding a little bit of chorus like stereo width to our sound. To me, what this actually kind of sounds like is a little bit more realism if I'm playing a piano that's maybe not perfectly tuned. You know, sometimes you don't have someone tuning a piano every day. And then we have 2 and 3. What this is doing is it's kind of taking some of the neighboring notes to give us that chorusy width sound there. So moving over to the sample synth section, a new feature that has been added is this glide functionality. So a nice little example of this is program A26. You get a little bit of that glide between notes. We also have another cool example of this with program F65, which is called Wind Lead Split. We can also use the new vibrato feature in our sample synth section to give us kind of that feature you'd get with a modulation wheel. And so if we isolate, let's just take this B26, I'm gonna isolate this one layer. It's got it on delay right now, so when I initially play the sound, you don't get it, but if I hold the sound, you start to hear that vibrato. We could change that to be controlled by maybe one of our pedals on our triple pedal, or we could just have that be on. You can control the rate and the amount of that by coming in here. And also set the delay if it's on the delay setting. So you play the note and then how long does it take for that vibrato to kick in? It's a really cool feature with the vibrato. It gives you some additional synth type capabilities as you're building and playing sounds here on the Nord Grand 2. So Unison, similar to the piano section, would give us kind of this transposed, with a synth sound, this chorusy type transposed neighboring notes sound. If we're using it with some acoustic samples like a flute, it gives it more of an ensemble type of sound. So like this flute here. If I turn that off, again, a bit more of an ensemble type of sound to that. And then there's this round robin effect that we've got, and it's not really present on the panel, but if we pull up a sound like an acoustic guitar, turn Unison on, that's off, on 1, 2, and 3. I like 1. Guitar on a piano is a little difficult to play realistically, but having these new features just gives it a little bit of added realism. Now, something really new, they just added this feature to the Nord Stage 4, and it's included with the Nord Grand 2, is this new release behavior that they added on some of the V4 samples. Specifically, just pull up A15, the string quintet. Let me take the effects off of here. So we've just got this string. Now what this is doing is, if you listen to older string sounds, things like that, you get kind of a fade off when you let off the key. Whereas with this new release behavior, it actually almost gives us like a sample end to this. Similar to if you're playing and you stop playing that violin or the stringed instrument. I think it just gives it another level of realism, and I'm excited to see where this goes in the future. Because now that this is here, maybe we'll get this on guitars and things like that, where we get some additional samples for the stop of the play with this release behavior that's built in now. Now, it's only going to work on the newer samples where it's included. Specifically, the Spitfire String Quintet, I think, is the first sound samples to include this release behavior. So I'm excited to see what comes up here in the future. Within the effects section, we have a bunch of changes. I'm going to do a separate video going into detail on what's been added and changed within the effects section. So be on the lookout for that. But we have some new things that came from the Nord Stage 4, such as spin, vibe. We've got some updates to the amps, as well as some of this really great stuff on the reverb. Let me just, I'm going to play you this here. So this is new spin effect. Now I want to talk a little bit about the reverb, and in an effort to make this video not too long, we'll talk in detail on the effects in a separate video. But reverb itself is really cool. Let's come back over. I'm just going to grab just a basic white grand again. Now let's go ahead and turn the reverb on and talk about just a couple of things here before we wrap this video up. Now the reverb, as I mentioned, is global, the type and kind of our settings here. The wet, dry, we can apply separately, or the amount we can apply separately to our different layers though. A couple of new things within here that I wanted to talk about that I love on the Nord Stage 4, so I think it's amazing that they've added that here, is let's come over to our cathedral. Let's talk about cloud reverb. It's the big thing everywhere, especially in churches. You can hold shift and tap on this bright, dark choral button to access that cloud cathedral reverb. Let's go into maybe dynamic compression 2 and a soft timbre. And you'll kind of hear, as I'm playing, you hear this in quite a bit of modern worship music. Now what's really cool, and on the Nord Stage 4 you could do this, and now you can do it here, is you can do 100% wet reverb, which it's going to be overkill with cloud. What that's doing is the audio signal's coming into our insert effect here with the reverb, and instead of hearing some raw signal split and some reverb, we're hearing 100% of the reverb, none of the raw signal. It gives it this beautiful sound. And then what we could do is we could turn layer B on, give that a white grand, and we could just mix in a little bit of that 100% wet. And let me come in here, turn my send down for layer B. Gives us a lot of cool control there. Let's turn layer B off, and I'm going to bring layer A, which is our 100%. And we've got another new feature here, which is bright, dark, normal. So listen, I'm going to leave it on 100% wet because we're here. And we've got this setting we can choose between dark, just the darker, warmer tones of the reverb, bright, which is the opposite, and then normal. I tend to go with bright when I'm using something like this, where I'll have my cloud reverb. And it doesn't muddy the mix up, but it gives me that nice cloud reverb. We also have this new booth reverb. Now, one last thing I want to show you is the spring reverb. So let's come over to program A13 here. It's got this EP with a spring reverb. Let's turn that off. And back on. Love it. So we've brushed on some of the new features. Obviously, the panel layout lends itself much better to live playing. We've got these 6 quick recall buttons where we can move between the 6 programs. The programs are laid out in banks, pages, and programs similar to a lot of the Nords, and you can move between them quickly. There's live mode on here as well. So much more we're going to dive into in future videos, but I think when it comes down to it, like, who is the Nord Grand 2 for? And for me, I look at this in a couple of different areas. One, if you're a church and you have classically trained pianists that play in your music teams, I think this is a really good option to go digital because, you know, you're playing a grand, you've got to get it tuned, all of those things. The action on this is amazing and the piano sounds are amazing. Now, the great thing with Nord is they're going to continue to come out with new and better sounds. They all are backwards compatible and work with this. So to have the future possibility kind of helps with the overall price of this, which lands about $4,500 US. Another area that the Nord Grand 2 is perfect for is classroom and teaching, as well as if you're a pianist and you want something to practice at home with, you get the feel and, you know, it's about as close to a real piano sound as I think you can get in a package that's much smaller than a grand piano or an upright piano and doesn't need to be tuned, has a bunch of other features, and is upgradable in the future as Nord continues to bring out new and better sounds. So for me, this I think is perfect for all of those different areas. Now, again, it's not something I'm probably going to bring on stage with me all the time. Well, you definitely could. It's got features for that. For me, it's been amazing to have this here at camp with me and just playing this. As I said, I've probably played this half an hour every night. It gives me a lot of possibilities, and sometimes I just want to sit down and practice piano, and this is perfect for that. So I think those are some of the areas that this is going to shine the most. If you've got a Nord Grand, is it worth upgrading to the Nord Grand 2? You know, if you've got a Nord Grand, you probably had a reason that drove you to get that, and I think this is a worthy upgrade because I love all of the features on the Nord Stage 4, and the fact that they brought some of those into the Nord Grand 2. It just increases your ability to control and build sound. And then with the improved Keybed feel, for me, I would upgrade from the Nord Grand to the Nord Grand 2. If you've got any questions about the Nord Grand 2, about what I went over in this video, feel free to throw those down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And be on the lookout for a lot more videos on the Nord Grand 2. I'm here at camp for a little while, and there's nothing better than playing piano and looking out over the water. And I'm going to end out this video playing Program D12 Feltscape. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Stay inspired and keep making that music.